welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to continue the series of looking at From the Earth to the Moon, which came out in 1998. This is a mini series based on the Apollo missions. So we're going to be looking at episodes 3 and 4 here. I'm going to jump into IMDb here. So the first episode 3 is We Have Cleared the Tower. So this one focuses on Apollo 7. So the purpose of Apollo 7 was essentially this is a test flight. They are making sure the new rockets work, the new design on the module works, all the computers work. Basically, we're prepping for, this is the next step to actually going to the moon. So we're testing all the computers and rockets and just making sure everything works. So this is done, and I'm not sure I liked the way they did this. So they did it through having a documentary film crew watching everything as they prepare for the Apollo 7 mission. So this is, jump back to Wikipedia here to realize what year this is, because again, this is Apollo 7. So this is October 1968. At least that's when the mission takes place. And we're focusing on, obviously we have Tom Hanks, who's always the host, but the main characters here are Wally, I'm just going to pronounce this here. I didn't go up to the top because I have to look. Walter Marty Scara Jr. So that's his full name. He's called Wally in this. And he's a test pilot. He was originally part of the Project Mercury. This will be his third flight. He's a test pilot, and it's very much, this is his last flight. He is done after this. He's approaching 40. He's about to retire. It's like, makes it clear, it's like, I'm a test pilot. Once this mission is done, the testing is done, and he's done. So, he's actually played by Mark Harmon, who I know mainly from NCIS. So that's the actor. And again, I have reservations with how they shot this as the documentary, because they do go back and forth. And it is kind of irritating. The other actors you have is the documentary director. I don't think they actually give him it. The actor's name is Peter Horton. And then you have the two other astronauts who were on here, which are, see if they're, Walt Cunningham, who's played by, and again, I'm going to mispronounce this guy's name, Fredric Lehne, and then I have to go back in here because they do not give the third guy on the main page here, if I can run. Don Essel, who's played by John Mese, I think is the name of the guy, actor here. So those are the three astronauts that are going into space. And this is very much, you do see a lot of Wally here. Because again, he's the most senior. And he's concerned about the wind, which yes, it was true about it messing around. Safety features, they're very, very concerned because again, Apollo 1 happened. So, and they did run, because again, this is Apollo 7. So they did test. They had an Apollo 4, an Apollo 5, Apollo 6, and this is Apollo 7. So this is them testing things out. And so you see a mixture of Wally's trying to make sure everything is safe. You're talking to the safety director that they brought on after Apollo 1. You also have this documentary crew, which brings up Apollo 1, which of course you see Wally's character very unhappy. It's like, because this team was their backup. And it's like, he does not want to talk about this at all, which of course I'm sure the actual person didn't really want to do it either. He had lost his friends. These were at least two of them were part of the Mercury 7. These were his friends. And it shouldn't have happened. And it's like, everything's been documented. We have to move on from this. And so he did not want to talk about this. And the documentary director is trying to weasel his way. He's trying to get more information about Apollo 1. And they're scrutinizing absolutely everything. They also tried to get the new safety director to admit that had he been there, it wouldn't have happened. He's like, no, it was an accident. There was a bunch of things that happened that went wrong. We've changed this. We've refixed the hatch. We've gotten stuff. We've fixed everything. It's like, do you think this could happen again? It's like, there's always a risk. We can train and train for everything, but there's always going to be a risk. It's like they're trying to get them to admit things. They're going to make the program look bad. It's like, yeah, no, not happening. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Again, I don't like the way they shot this because it gets really confusing because it jumps back and forth, and it bugs me. And I didn't really like watching this format of this episode at all. And just doing how they did these interviews. I don't know. It turned me off. So, but it does really talk, what you do get is a sense, particularly through the character of Wally Skara, of how much safety precautions they're putting in, how paranoid he is. Even though he's retiring, he knows that these other guys are going to the moon. And of course, he's invested in this. He was one of the Mercury 7. This is his third flight into space. He wants to make sure we get to the moon. Because again, he put a lot of his life into this. So, and I've looked at the Wikipedia page. He actually joins Walter Cronkite and helps, whether he's an expert or something, when they're doing the Apollo missions. My door is opening and in comes a black cat. So, but it is very interesting. You get the sense of we're almost ready for this. You do get how he's concerned about the wind and just how much they're prepping this. And then it does show them get into space. I do believe he gets somewhat sick. I think he might get a cold on this as I scroll down, which seems to be a theme on these two episodes. So let us see. Yeah. He's the first person to fly into space 3 times. He objected to the high winds, which they do show as well. But let's see. Yeah, he ended up sick with a head cold, and which he passed to his easel, one of the other astronauts, and they were anticipating issues with congestion inside a sealed spacesuit. He proposed to Mission Control that they not wear their helmets during re-entry. And let's see. Despite the request, it's like, no, you're wearing your helmets during re-entry, and they didn't do it anyway. So they landed in Bermuda without their helmets. Astronauts being astronauts. And of course, this was his last flight. He retired after this. So it's an interesting episode. Again, I don't like how it was shot. But it does give it gives you a decent amount of information. So now on to the next episode. So the next episode is 1968. I'm not fond of this one either because it turns away a little bit from the space program and looks a lot about what's going on in 1968, which of course in the US everything's going bonkers. It's the Vietnam War is going on, the civil rights movement exploding, the student rights movements are going nuts. It's a turbulent time. So this focuses on the Apollo 8 mission. So this is literally a matter of months later. So the Apollo 8 mission is December 22nd to the 27th of 1968. This is the first mission to the moon. Not landing on the moon, but literally the first mission to the moon. So one of the main persons you're focusing on this one is Frank Borman. So he is the guy in charge of this mission, and you see his wife and just kind of how paranoid he is, and he is being played by, if I can find it here, not showing me who on earth is playing Borman. Of course not, because you're going to be annoying. Because I believe, oh, never mind, it's David Andrews is the name of the actor. And then you have James Lovell, who, again, we're familiar with Apollo 13, and then William Anders. So Anders is played by Robert John Burke, and then Jim Lovell is played by Tim DeLay. So these guys are, you also kind of interact a bit with Borman's wife, who is terrified because this is the first manned mission to the moon. Even though they're not landing on it, they're making sure they can get there, and nobody knows if they're going to be able to, if they can get into moon orbit or if they can get them back. Well, obviously they did, but they did not know that then. So she was very concerned that her husband was going to die. Let me see if no, I don't see her. I'm not going to go looking into it. The other person you see here is a more well-known actor, is Cary Elwes. I'm probably mispronouncing his last name. But he plays Michael Collins, who is one of the astronauts, but he's doing mission control at this time. He does play, Michael Collins is one of the Apollo astronauts. And in fact, if I remember correctly, I think he's the module pilot for Apollo 11. So, but we'll get there. But this one focuses, again, you're getting a lot of back and forth with what's going on near the end of 1968 and how turbulent things are, and along with them preparing for this and just how terrifying it is, because they are literally going into the unknown. This is a first. We've only been around Earth. We've been doing a lot of stuff. This is everything they've been preparing for since literally Project Mercury. So, and I think this is Lovell's second time in space. I think he is. Yeah, because he was in the Gemini program. His last time in space is Apollo 13. But you definitely see, I think one of the other things you kind of learn about is, of course, Jim Lovell, as well as Borman, are both captains normally. Yes, we saw your cats in the background. But so it's kind of interesting that Borman's kind of in charge. The other thing that happens is Borman gets sick when they're up there. It seems like, whether he's had the flu, in my own research looking at Wikipedia or stuff, they think what he got was a space sickness. And they hadn't noticed it before. They've never been out this long. So they don't know whether he has the flu or what to do. All they know is he's sick. He does get better. They do handle things. They do get into Earth orbit. They do take dozens of pictures. And at one point in time, because he's resting, his both Lovell and Burke become exhausted because they're doing everything while Borman is resting. So once he gets better, he's like, go to sleep. Stop taking pictures, go to sleep, which is again is what they're doing. These are the first pictures we're getting of Earth from the moon. Not to mention we're first pictures of getting pictures of the moon, and they're describing it. It's like, this looks very different. It's very gray. Things aren't as pronounced as they are from Earth. So it is kind of it's an interesting episode. You really do get the vitalness of this. And the absolute terror of Borman's wife and how agitated she is. He has teenager adult sons. I think they're older. They're still at home and they're excited. They don't realize just how dangerous this is. His wife is terrified. I believe she has a fight with one of the with her husband's boss, the guy who's in charge. She yells at him. It's like, at this point, it'll be interesting to watch the episode that focuses on the wives. Because again, they probably have a pretty tough time there. Their husbands were going into space and doing things they'd never done before. They had no idea every time they went up whether they would come back. Which, unfortunately, is actually true today. It's less likely. We know what we're doing most of the time, but it's still dangerous. But nonetheless, it's an interesting episode. And again, like the others, I do believe, both of these are, this 1968 is 53 minutes, and then We Have Cleared the Tower is 57. So they're all roughly about an hour long video here. And again, they're interesting. These are not my favorites. I want to say that. I liked kind of the format of the first two a little bit better, particularly the second one. But they are interesting and they really do show it. I would have liked a little bit less in the second episode of showing what is going on in the world around, unless it's directly affecting the Apollo missions, because everybody knows this. This is history. So at least I would hope people know what's going on in the United States during the space race. But this one was, I do believe, also 1968, the Apollo mission. What mission am I talking about? The Apollo 8 mission was very, very terrifying. And they do show just how dangerous and how much stuff they do. They do, in the previous episode, this crew does actually talk to some of the computer guys. And it's, as someone living in 2024, there is more computing power in the tiny laptop that's sitting in front of me, not to mention my phone, than was on the Apollo missions. So, we have more computing power than they do in a tiny handheld device, which is astonishing. But really should look into something with John Glenn, because again, he was part of the Mercury 7 and then went back into space decades later as a little old man. But or was that Buzz Aldrin? Mixing up two, and I'm pretty sure it was Buzz Aldrin. But in fact, I will double check while I'm sitting here. Go to Apollo 11. It was Aldrin. Glenn was the one who died in Apollo 11. Buzz went back into space. So we'll have to do a video on him. Will be interesting. But nonetheless, interesting episodes further on. The next two episodes coming up after this will be Spider, which is talking about the evolution of the lunar module, and then episode 6 is they land on the moon. So that's when they go to the moon. Yes, and it's Michael Collins is the one who doesn't go down to the moon itself. that is Aldrin and Armstrong, of course. So that will be the next video, and then that will be episodes 5 and 6, and then we will move on to That's All There, which is episode 7. That's the Apollo 12 mission where they walk again, and then we interrupt this program. We talk about Apollo 13. So, and then that's going to be interesting because it looks like they use an alternative thing where they're doing newscasters. And then episodes 9 and 10 are Miles for Miles, which is 10 years after becoming the first American. So this is Alan Shepard, goes on Apollo 13. He was the first American in space. Now he goes to the moon. And then Galileo Was Right, which is Apollo 15. Astronauts and the backup crew go through the extensive geology training in preparation for their mission. And then the last two are the episode 11, which is the Original Wives Club, and the ending of the moon missions. So we will get through those slowly. This is being filmed on November 1st, so I will have these coming out throughout November and parts of December. It was cover the books of Diwali, which, again, thankfully, as people who are familiar with my channel, I've been kind of getting behind on things. Those were already set. They were already done. And then I'll be covering mysteries in December. So, like and subscribe, check out what I've got, and leave a positive comment if you have one. Thank you.